Hi everyone! Today Rachel and I will be presenting our Biology 313 extra credit project. We'll be talking about muscle contraction. Here are the components and organization of muscle cells. There's a thin filament, or F-actin, which contains a troponin, which is a calcium binding site, and the tropomyosin, which is a rope around the actin. There's also the thick filament, or myosin, that acts as the base for the actin to slide on. Myosin is a dimer with two motor heads that contain actin binding sites. In addition to these components, calcium is also used. ATP is also used as energy to power the muscle contraction, which is later hydrolyzed into ADP and PI. Next, we'll talk about the two steps involved in muscle contraction. The first step is initiation, and then is the powering of the muscle contraction. To begin the muscle contraction, calcium ions must be released to allow the filaments to slide. First, an action potential arrives from the motor neuron, which causes acetylcholine release from the vesicles. After acetylcholine binds to the receptors, sodium is able to enter the muscle cell. This then causes an action potential to be propagated in the transverse tubules, which allows the calcium 2+ ions to be released to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. These calcium ions are then used to actually power the muscle cells.
One of the most important concepts to remember when discussing the powering of muscle filaments is that muscle contraction requires energy. To start, ATP binds to the myosin head. This action causes the myosin to detach from its binding site on actin. Note that the myosin is an ATPase, which means that it hydrolyzes ATP. Therefore, the next step in which ATP is hydrolyzed into ADP in an inorganic phosphate makes sense. This hydrolysis provides the energy needed for the myosin head to undergo a conformational change. The new conformation of the myosin head is able to bind to the next myosin binding site on actin. Finally, to move the actin in an opposing direction to the myosin, the power stroke must occur. The release of the inorganic phosphate from myosin provides the energy required for the power stroke. ADP is then released from the myosin head, and this cycle for muscle contraction will then repeat. To summarize the previous slide, Step 1. ATP binds to the myosin head. Step 2. Myosin head detaches from the actin. Step 3. ATPase activity of the myosin hydrolyzes ATP into ADP in an inorganic phosphate. As a result, the myosin head undergoes a conformational change. Step 4. The newly conformed myosin head attaches to the next myosin binding site on actin. Step 5. The inorganic phosphate is released, resulting in the power stroke. Step 6. ADP is released and the cycle repeats by returning to Step 1.